Good morning all students. Welcome to Department of Anatomy. Today we will see about medulla oblongata. In today's lecture we will see about introduction to brainstem, then detailed structure of this medulla oblongata. In this medulla oblongata we see about this general overview, gross anatomy and internal structure. Introduction to brainstem. So this figure, it shows the ventral aspect of brainstem, and this brainstem, it consists of medulla, pons and midbrain. That is from above downward, midbrain, pons and medulla. This brainstem, above it continues with the structures derived from the forebrain, that is thalamus, hypothalamus and cerebral hemispheres, and below brainstem it continues with the spinal cord. Brainstem, it lies in the posterior cranial fossa in relation with basisphenoid bone. This brainstem, it is connected with cerebellum by three cerebellar peduncles. That is medulla, it is connected by the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Pons, it is connected with cerebellum by middle cerebellar peduncle, and this midbrain, it is connected with superior cerebellar peduncle. Brainstem, it gives attachment to cranial nerves, that is third to 12th cranial nerves. They are attached to this brainstem. First and second cranial nerve, they are attached to forebrain. So this midbrain, it gives attachment to third cranial nerve and fourth cranial nerve. This fourth cranial nerve, it emerges on the dorsal aspect of midbrain. Then pons, it gives attachment to fifth cranial nerve at the junction of pons and medulla, that is at the pontomedullary junction. There are three nerves attached, that is abducent, facial and vestibulocochlear, that is 6, 7 and 8. And medulla, it gives attachment to last four cranial nerves. 9, 10 and 11 cranial nerves, they are attached to posterolateral sulcus, and this 12th cranial nerve, it is attached to anterolateral sulcus. Now as these all cranial nerves, they are attached to brainstem, so origin of these cranial nerves, it lies within the brainstem, and these nerves, they originate from the various nuclei. So all the cranial nerve nuclei for these nerves, they are situated in brainstem. Then this medulla, it also consists of vital centers. That vital centers means respiratory center, cardiac center and vasomotor centers, which are responsible for respiration, maintenance of respiration, heart rate and blood pressure. This is the dorsal aspect of brainstem after cutting cerebellum. So here are three peduncles. This is the superior peduncle. This one is the middle cerebellar peduncle. Then inferior cerebellar peduncle and superior cerebellar peduncle. This one is the posterior aspect of midbrain. This is the posterior aspect of pons, and this one is the posterior aspect of medulla. This posterior aspect of pons and upper part of posterior aspect of medulla, they forms the floor of fourth ventricle. Now we will see about medulla oblongata. So we study this medulla oblongata under following points: introduction, size and shape, relations of medulla oblongata, external features, internal structure of medulla, blood supply of medulla, and last is the clinical anatomy of medulla. So first we will see about external features. So this medulla oblongata, it is derived from myelencephalon. This myelencephalon, it is derived from that rhombencephalon. Rhombencephalon, it is the hindbrain vesicle. It is divided into two parts, that is metencephalon and myelencephalon. Metencephalon, it gives rise to pons and cerebellum, and myelencephalon, it gives rise to medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata, it is present in anterior part of posterior cranial fossa. Its size and shape, it is conical in shape, that is it is bulb like, and in size, its length, it is about 2 cm, breadth, it is about length, it is about 3 cm, breadth at the upper end, it is about 2 cm, and its thickness, that is anteroposterior diameter, it is about 1.5 centimeter. It is covered by all meninges of brain, that is the dura mater, arachnoid matter and pia mater. As it lies in the anterior part of the posterior cranial fossa, anteriorly this medulla, it is related with the upper surface of part of basilar bone, then upper part of odontoid process of atlas, membrana tectoria, upper band of cruciate ligament, apical ligament and anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. And within the subarachnoid space anterior to this medulla, there lies two vertebral arteries which ascends upward on each side of medulla. Other structures in the subarachnoid space posterior to vertebral artery, these are the rootlets of hypoglossal nerve, first pair of ligamentum denticulatum and the spinal part of accessory nerve, and all these structures they are present in the subarachnoid space posterior to the vertebral artery and anterior to the medulla. That is, anteriorly it is related with these structures, posteriorly it is related with this upper part of medulla, it is related with the cerebellum and from which it is separated by fourth ventricle. Lower part of this posterior aspect, it is related with posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Superiorly, it continues with pons at the pontomedullary junction, it is demarcated by the transverse groove. Inferiorly, it continues with the spinal cord, and on each side medulla, it is related with the 12th cranial nerve which is attached to the anterolateral sulcus, and the other cranial nerve, that is 9th and 10th cranial nerves which are attached at the posterolateral sulcus. So these are the relations of medulla. Now we will see about these external features of medulla. This medulla, it is divided into two halls, that is right and left halls, by the anterior median fissure anteriorly and posterior median sulcus posteriorly, and these two fissure and anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus, they divide this medulla into two halls, that is right and left. Now each half again it is divided into three parts by the anterolateral sulcus and posterolateral sulcus, and this anterolateral sulcus and posterolateral sulcus, they continue inferiorly with the anterolateral and posterolateral sulci of the spinal cord. This anterior median fissure, it continues inferiorly with the anterior median fissure of spinal cord. In the lower part of the medulla, this anterior median fissure, it is obliterated by the fibers of the pyramidal decussation. Now this anterior surface of medulla, on each side of this anterior median fissure, it shows two longitudinal elevations and they are called as pyramid. And as already you know what is this pyramid, these pyramids, these elevation, they are produced due to the presence of corticospinal fibers. Lateral to this pyramid, that is in between anterolateral sulcus and posterolateral sulcus, there is another oval shaped elevation and that is called as oleo, and that oleo, it is produced due to presence of inferior olivary nucleus beneath this elevation. Then elevations on each side, that is medial elevation, that is called as gracile tubercle, and lateral is called as cuneate tubercle, and these two elevation, they are produced due to the presence of nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus beneath these elevations. Then dorsolateral to this gracile, that is cuneate tubercle, there is another elevation and that is produced by this inferior cerebellar peduncle which lies on the dorsolateral aspect of this nucleus cuneatus, and this inferior cerebellar peduncle, it connects medulla with the cerebellum. So this is the dorsal aspect of brainstem. Now in this photograph you can see this is the anterior median fissure. This anterior median fissure superiorly it continues or it ends in a triangular depression, and that depression is called as foramina cecum. So these are the pyramids. This one is the anterolateral sulcus. This is the olive. This one is the posterolateral sulcus, and this one is the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Then this anterior median fissure in its lower part, it is obliterated by these fibers of the pyramidal decussation. This is the posterior aspect of medulla. Now this photograph, it shows posterior surface of medulla, that is the brain stem, after cutting cerebellum. Here this is the lower part of medulla. This medulla, it is divided into two parts. That is, the lower part is called as closed part, in which central canal is present, and the upper part is called as open part, in which fourth ventricle is present. Now this posterior surface of this medulla, upper part, it forms the floor of the fourth ventricle, and it is separated from this upper part of the floor of fourth ventricle by the bundle of fibers, and that is called as stria medullaris. So this is the posterior aspect. This is the gracile tubercle, then cuneate tubercle. Now we will see about internal structure of medulla. Now what is present inside medulla? You know that through this medulla, various ascending and descending tracts, they pass to the cerebral cortex. That is, one of the content of this medulla is the ascending and descending tracts. Then various cranial nerves, they are attached to this medulla. So nuclei of these various cranial nerves, they are present within this medulla. Then another structure, it is present inside medulla, that is the inferior olivary nucleus, and one other structure, that is the thick bundle of fibers, and that is called as inferior cerebellar peduncle, which connects medulla with the cerebellum. Now this internal structure of medulla, it is studied by taking transverse sections at different level. So first section, it is taken at this lower part of medulla, that is at the level of pyramidal decussation. Second transverse section, it is taken at the level of sensory decussation or at the level of great sensory decussation. And third section of medulla, it is taken at the level of olivary nucleus, that is at the level of fourth ventricle. So first we will see about this first transverse section at the level of pyramidal decussation. So this is the transverse section of the medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation. This transverse section, its shape and size as that of the spinal cord. That means presence of central canal, presence of all funicula. Most striking feature present at this level is the decussation of these pyramidal fibers. So anteriorly there are pyramids, that is the corticospinal fibers. Now these corticospinal fibers, they run backward and laterally, and they decussate with the similar fibers from the opposite side anterior to the central canal. And after going to backward and laterally, they continues as the lateral corticospinal tract in the lateral funiculus of spinal cord. Now what happens due to this decussation of pyramidal fibers? This anterior horn of grey matter, it is separated from the central grey matter, and this anterior horn which is separated from the central grey matter, its ventromedial part, it forms the supraspinal nucleus, that is called as supraspinal nucleus, and it gives origin to the first cervical nerve, that is the first cervical spinal nerve. Its dorsolateral part, it forms the spinal nucleus of accessory nerve. Above this spinal nucleus of accessory nerve, it continues as the nucleus ambiguous, and below this nucleus, spinal nucleus of accessory nerve, it continues up to the C2 segment of C4 to C5 segments of spinal cord. This supraspinal nucleus above, it continues as the hypoglossal nerve nucleus. Now posteriorly, this dorsal horn, it shows projections at this level. So from the apex, that projection that forms the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and below this nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, it continues as the substantia gelatinosa, and this nucleus externally, it is covered by the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Then from base of this posterior horn, these two projections, they extend into the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and these projections, they are nothing but the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. That means this nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, they are derived from the posterior horn of this gray matter, which are sensory function. Then remaining part of this medulla at this level, it is similar as that of the spinal cord. That means in the posterior funiculus there are presence of that fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. Then this lateral funiculus, it is occupied by the various ascending and descending tracts, and main tracts, that is the dorsal and ventral spinocerebellar tract, then lateral spinothalamic tract, and other ascending and descending tracts. So this is about the transverse section at the level of pyramidal decussation, and main feature at this level, that is the crossing of or decussation of this corticospinal fibers, due to which this anterior horn, it is separated from the central gray matter, and there is appearance of this nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus, and the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Now next section we will study, that is transverse section of medulla oblongata at the level of sensory decussation. In this section also there is presence of central canal and the central gray matter, but there is no continuity between the posterior horn and the central gray matter. At this level, first we will see about this median part. Anteriorly there are presence of pyramids, and they are nothing but, that is the corticospinal fibers. Then posterior to this pyramids there is presence of this medial lemniscus and that great sensory decussation. Then posterior to this there is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. Posterior to that is central gray matter with nuclei and central canal, and posterior to there are the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. Now this nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus at this level, they are larger in size, and the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, they are smaller in size, because these fibers, they relay in this nuclei. So this nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, they receive, that is first order neurons, which carries the proprioceptive sensations, then sensation of fine touch, 2-point discrimination, tactile localization and vibrations, and these fibers, they come through this fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and they relay in this nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. The efferents arising from these fibers, they are called as internal arcuate fibers, and these internal arcuate fibers, they run ventrally and medially, and they cross to the opposite side in front of this central canal and goes to the opposite side as a medial lemniscus, and that crossing that decussation, which is formed by that crossing of internal arcuate fibers, which are the efferents of this nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, that is called as great sensory decussation. And after crossing these internal arcuate fibers, they ascend upward as the medial lemniscus, which carries the sensation, proprioceptive sensations, then 2-point discrimination, sensation of vibration. Then posterior to this medial lemniscus, there is medial longitudinal bundle. Then posterior to it, that is there is the central gray matter, and in this there is the appearance of some nuclei, that is the medially there is the hypoglossal nucleus. Then lateral to this there is the dorsal nucleus of vagus, and dorsally, that is the nucleus of tractus solitarius. So this is the about structures in the median part. Then in the lateral part, that is new structure appear here, that is the inferior olivary nucleus. About its detail we will see in the next section. Then remaining structures, they are same as that of the level of pyramidal decussation, that is presence of this dorsal and ventral spinocerebellar tracts, then presence of this lateral spinothalamic tract, then nucleus and the tract of this spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. And here one nucleus appear, new nucleus appear, which is present on the dorsolateral aspect of this nucleus cuneatus, and that is called as accessory cuneate nucleus. And at the time of ascending tracts, we have already seen about this accessory cuneate nucleus. It receives proprioceptive fibers, that is the unconscious proprioceptive fibers from the upper extremity. They relay in this nucleus, and efferents of this nucleus, they form the cuneo-cerebellar fibers or the posterior external arcuate fibers. They enters into inferior cerebellar peduncle and terminate in the cerebellum. So this is about the transverse section of medulla oblongata at the level of sensory decussation. Then we will see about the transverse section of medulla oblongata at the level of olivary nucleus, and that is passing through the floor of fourth ventricle. At this level, that many new structures appear. So first we will see about this median part. This median part, it is same as that of the previous section. So there are pyramids anteriorly, but here one new structure appear which is present on the ventromedial aspect of pyramid, and that is called as arcuate nucleus. This arcuate nucleus, these are the aberrant pontine nuclei, that is the displaced pontine nuclei. And this nuclei, as they are the pontine nuclei, so this receives fibers, that is the corticopontine fibers, that is from the cerebral cortex. So afferents of this nuclei, so when you study any nucleus, if you study that nucleus under few points, that is the location of that nucleus, afferents of nucleus, efferents of nucleus, and function of nucleus. So this arcuate nucleus, it is situated on ventromedial aspect of pyramid. Its afferents, it receives fibers from the cortex, that is the corticopontine fibers, and its efferents, they form the anterior external arcuate fibers. These anterior external arcuate fibers, efferents of the arcuate nuclei, they cross to the opposite side and they enters into the inferior cerebellar peduncle of the opposite side and enters into cerebellum. Then its few efferent fibers of this arcuate nuclei, they pass through this substance of medulla dorsally and they cross with the similar fibers from the opposite side in the floor of the fourth ventricle. Here they are covered by the ependyma of the fourth ventricle and they goes to the opposite side as the stria medullaris, and the stria medullaris, it separates pontine, that is the floor of the fourth ventricle, that is the formed by pons and medulla, and the stria medullaris, it divides these two parts of the floor of fourth ventricle. So this stria medullaris, it is nothing but the efferents of arcuate nuclei and external anterior arcuate fibers, they are also efferents of this arcuate nuclei. Then next structure is the medial lemniscus. Then posterior to this there is the tectospinal tract, that is from the tectum to the spinal cord. Then next is the medial longitudinal fasciculus, and next most dorsally, that is in the floor of the fourth ventricle, there is a hypoglossal nucleus. We will see later on about this cranial nerve nuclei. Then laterally there is this inferior olivary nucleus. This inferior olivary nucleus, there are three nuclei: principal inferior olivary nucleus and the dorsal and medial accessory olivary nuclei. So this inferior olivary nucleus, it forms the one of the subcortical center. This nucleus, it is present that is the bag of grey matter with crenated margins and hilum, having the hilum which is directed medially. This nucleus, inferior olivary nucleus, situated in the upper 2/3 part of medulla, and its afferents, it mainly receives fibers from the cortex, spinal cord, red nucleus and the periaqueductal grey. Efferents of this nucleus that emerges at the hilum of this inferior olivary nucleus, they cross to the opposite side and enters into the cerebellar peduncle, inferior cerebellar peduncle of the opposite side and terminates in the cerebellum as a climbing fibers. So efferents of this inferior, that is principal inferior olivary nucleus, they are called as climbing fibers which terminate in the cerebellum. These accessory nuclei, efferents, they form the parolivocerebellar fibers and they enters into the contralateral inferior cerebellar peduncle and they terminate in the cerebellum. Then next structure in this lateral funiculus or lateral part, that is the spinal lemniscus, and this spinal lemniscus, it is formed by joining of this anterior and the lateral spinothalamic tracts. Then other tracts, here is the anterior spinocerebellar tract and this posterior spinocerebellar tract, here it emerges in the inferior cerebellar peduncle and it enters into the cerebellum through this inferior cerebellar peduncle and terminates in the cerebellum. Then here is the spinal nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve and its tract which lies superficial to it. On this dorsolateral aspect of this section, there is the one prominent elevation and that is formed by this inferior cerebellar peduncle. Now we will see about various cranial nerve nuclei which are situated at this level. So if we go from the medial to lateral side, you know that is the functional component of cranial nerve. They are arranged from the medial to lateral side in this brainstem. So first nucleus, that is the hypoglossal nucleus which is situated in the upper 2/3 part of this medulla oblongata. Its functional component is the somatic efferent, that means it supplies the muscles derived from the somites. Afferents of this nucleus, it receives fibers, that is the corticonuclear fibers from the motor cortex of the cerebral hemisphere, and efferents of this nucleus, it forms the hypoglossal nerve which emerges at this anterolateral sulcus and it supplies muscles of the tongue. Then next column, that is the special visceral efferent column and nucleus here, that is the nucleus ambiguous, and this nucleus ambiguous, it forms the nucleus of that branchiomotor column or the special visceral efferent column, that means it supplies muscles derived from that branchial apparatus. Now fibers arising from this nucleus ambiguous, they goes through 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves and they supplies muscles of soft palate, pharynx and larynx. So this is the nucleus ambiguous. Then next column is the general visceral efferent column and nucleus for this the dorsal nucleus of vagus. So this dorsal nucleus of vagus, it forms the major part of that cranial parasympathetic outflow. So it receives, it is situated in the upper 2/3 part of medulla. It receives fibers, that is the descending autonomic fibers, and they mainly come from the hypothalamus. Efferents of this nucleus, they pass through this vagus nerve and through this nerve it supplies the various structure, that is the muscles and glands of respiratory system and GIT, and also supplies the muscles of heart. That is the dorsal nucleus of vagus. Then next column is the general visceral afferent column, and here nucleus, that is the dorsal nucleus of vagus. Next column, that is a special visceral afferent column, and here nucleus is the nucleus of Tractus solitarius, and you know special visceral afferent column, it carries the taste sensation from the tongue. So this nucleus, which is situated in the upper 2/3 part of medulla, it receives, or its afferents, they are carried by the 7th, 9th and 10th cranial nerve, which carries the taste sensation from the tongue. Efferents of this nucleus, they form the solitariothalamic tract, which crosses to the opposite side, and then it terminates in the ventral posteromedian nucleus of thalamus, and from this it terminates into the sensory area of the cortex. Then next column is the general somatic afferent column, and here nucleus is the, that is nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and this nucleus, it receives exteroceptive sensation, that is the pain, touch, temperature sensation from the face of the same side through this tract, that is the tract of this nucleus. And efferents of this tract, they form the ventral trigeminothalamic tract. It crosses to the opposite side and terminate in the ventral posteromedial nucleus of the thalamus, and this nucleus, that is the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, it extends below up to the second cervical segment, and upward it extends up to the lower part of medulla. That means it is present in the upper 2 cervical segments throughout the medulla and in the lower part of medulla. So this is about the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. And last column is the special somatic afferent column, and here nuclei are the vestibular nuclei and the cochlear nuclei, and these nuclei, they are present at the junction of pons and medulla. So we will see about these nuclei when we study pons. So vestibular nuclei, there are 4 vestibular nuclei. Out of these, inferior and medial, they are present in the medulla, and superior and lateral, that is present in the pons. This cochlear nuclei, there are 2 ventral and dorsal cochlear nuclei, and they named according to their situation in relation with this inferior cerebellar peduncle. That is the dorsal cochlear nucleus, it is present on the dorsal aspect of inferior cerebellar peduncle, and ventral, it is present on the ventral aspect of this inferior cerebellar peduncle. So this is about the various cranial nerve nuclei which are situated in the medulla. Now this structure on the dorsolateral aspect, that is the most prominent structure, that is called as inferior cerebellar peduncle. So the inferior cerebellar peduncle, it is a thick bundle of fibers, that is it is formed by the white matter, thick bundle of fibers which connects this medulla with the cerebellum, and it mainly consists of afferents to the cerebellum. So it carries fibers from the medulla and the spinal cord to the cerebellum. So various fibers which are present in this inferior cerebellar peduncle, these are the, that is the dorsal spinocerebellar tract, then cuneo-cerebellar fibers, then oleo-cerebellar fibers, par-oleo-cerebellar fibers, then some fibers from the vestibular nuclei, that is the vestibulo-cerebellar fibers, some fibers from the reticular formation which is present in this medulla, that is the reticulocerebellar fibers. So these are the fibers that pass through this inferior cerebellar peduncle and they terminate in the cerebellum. Then other important structure which is present in the medulla, that is the reticular formation, and it is present throughout the brain stem, but in case of medulla it consists of, that is vital centers, that is the respiratory center, cardiac center and the vasomotor centers. They are present in this reticular formation of this medulla oblongata. So this is about the transverse section of medulla oblongata at the level of olivary nucleus. So this diagram, it shows connections of inferior olivary nucleus. So it receives fibers from this cerebral cortex, from this spinal cord through the that is spino-olivary fibers. It also receives fibers from the red nucleus and tegmentum of the midbrain. It also receives fibers from the lentiform nucleus and this thalamus, and they terminate in this inferior olivary nucleus, and its main efferents, they cross to the opposite sides as the olivocerebellar fibers, and they terminate in the cerebellum as the climbing fibers. Now we will see about blood supply of medulla. This medulla, it is supplied by mainly by two arteries. This medial part or this median region, it is supplied by the anterior spinal artery, which is branch of the vertebral artery, and its posterolateral part, it is supplied by posterior inferior cerebellar artery, which is again branch of this vertebral artery. Venous drainage, veins arising from this dorsal aspect, they mainly drain into the occipital sinus, and veins arising from this ventral aspect, they terminate in the basilar plexus of veins and inferior petrosal sinus. This is the blood supply of medulla. It is supplied, this median part, it is supplied by the anterior spinal artery, and this its posterolateral or dorsolateral part, it is supplied by this posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So blood supply artery, that is anterior spinal artery, which is branch of the vertebral artery, it supplies the region next to the midline, that is the part containing pyramid, medial lemniscus and hypoglossal nerve, and loss of blood supply to this median area due to these lesions of artery, that leads to this medial medullary syndrome, we will see later on. Then this posterior inferior cerebellar artery, which is branch of vertebral artery, it supplies lateral and dorsal part of this medulla oblongata, and injury to this or lesion of this artery, it leads to the lateral medullary syndrome. Now we will see about clinical anatomy of this medulla. So this medulla most commonly affected due to the vascular lesions, that means lesion it is in the vessels, and most commonly affected, that is the anterior spinal artery and posterior inferior cerebellar artery. And as we have seen in this blood supply, this median part of this medulla, it is supplied by anterior spinal artery, and lesion of this anterior spinal artery, that leads to damage to this median part, and that leads to the medial medullary syndrome. So this medial medullary syndrome means that is lesion to this anterior spinal artery that causes damage to this median area, and that leads to signs and symptoms, and that is the medial medullary syndrome. This posterolateral part, it is supplied by this posterior inferior cerebellar artery, that leads to damage to these structures, various structures present in this posterolateral area, and that leads to signs and symptoms, and that is called as lateral medullary syndrome. So first we will see about medial medullary syndrome. Many times there are short notes on this medial medullary syndrome and lateral medullary syndrome in your examination. So first we will see about this medial medullary syndrome, and cause for this medial medullary syndrome, that is the due to the loss of blood supply to the ventral side of medulla, that is lesion in the anterior spinal artery. Due to this, which structures are affected or which structures are damaged, that is the pyramid, which is present most ventrally. Next structure, that is the medial lemniscus, and the next structure, that is the hypoglossal nucleus, and damage to these structures that leads to, so signs and symptoms, there is paralysis of muscles of tongue on the same side. Why there is paralysis of the muscles of the tongue on the same side? Because there is injury to this hypoglossal nerve nucleus, and this hypoglossal nerve nucleus, it gives rise to hypoglossal nerve, and which supplies muscles of the same side. Then there is contralateral hemiplegia. that is due to injury to these pyramids. There is contralateral hemiplegia, means paralysis of the skeletal muscles of the contralateral side. Why contralateral side? Because these pyramidal fibers, they cross at the pyramidal decussation and they goes to the opposite side. So there is paralysis of the muscles on the contralateral side of the body and paralysis of the muscles of the tongue on the same side of the tongue. Then there is loss of touch and the kinesthetic sensation, means that is the sensation of the position, then sensation of fine touch, 2-point discrimination, tactile localization and vibration. They are also lost on the opposite side. Why that is opposite side? Because that medial lemniscus, it carries that proprioceptive sensations from the opposite side of body. So there is loss from the opposite side. Now in this figure, that there is a question, that is which side is affected, and in this case there is the left side is affected. Why? Because see, on the right side there is paralysis of this skeletal muscles on right side, and there is paralysis of the that tongue on the left side. Now in this figure you can see that tongue, it is deviated to the left side, and in case of tongue, when there is paralysis of the tongue muscles on one side, that tongue is deviated to the affected side due to the weakness of that genioglossus muscle. So here there is paralysis of the left side tongue muscles and paralysis of the contralateral side of the body. So this is here lesion, it is on the left side. Then we will see about this lateral medullary syndrome. This lateral medullary syndrome, it is due to the lesion of this posterior inferior cerebellar artery which supplies this posterolateral part of medulla. Now due to this lesion, which structures are affected? Nucleus ambiguous, which is present deep in the posterolateral part. Then spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, which is uncrossed. Then spinal lemniscus, and the spinal lemniscus, it is the continuation of this anterior and the lateral spinothalamic tracts, which is present in the lateral part of this medulla. Then there is also damage to this hypothalamo-spinal fibers, that is the autonomic fibers which descend from the hypothalamus to the spinal cord in the reticular formation, and if there is the lesion, then there is damage to these fibers, these sympathetic fibers, and there is also damage to this vestibular nuclei which are situated in this dorsal part. Now due to damage to all these structures, that leads to, that is due to the damage to this nucleus ambiguous. So what is affected? There is loss of function of this pharyngeal, laryngeal, palatal muscles of the same side, because this nucleus ambiguous through the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves, it supplies muscles of soft palate, pharynx and larynx of the same side, and that leads to the dysphonia and the dysphagia. Then so here in this diagram you can see that is the same side it is affected. Now there is loss of pain, touch, temperature, that is a loss of pain and temperature sensation on the same side of the face. Why there is loss of temperature on the same side of the face? Because there is damage to the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and which carries the sensation from the same side, and there is loss of pain and touch temperature sensations from the opposite side of the body, from this opposite side of the body, because there is damage to the spinal lemniscus and which carries sensation from the opposite side of the body. So in this diagram, that is there is the loss of pain, touch, temperature sensation on the same side of the face, but there is loss of pain, touch, temperature sensation on the opposite side of body. So this is about the this lateral medullary syndrome. Other signs and symptoms in this lateral medullary syndrome, there is damage to this hypothalamus-spinal fibers, and due to this damage that leads to the Horner syndrome, because there is damage to this sympathetic fibers. So there is Horner syndrome on the ipsilateral side due to the interruption of descending hypothalamus-spinal fibers of the sympathetic pathway. And this Horner syndrome, signs and symptoms of this Horner syndrome, that is, there is the meiosis. Now in this figure you can see on the left side there is meiosis, means there is the constriction of the pupil, as compared to this right side, this left side pupil, it is smaller. Then there is ptosis. Ptosis means that is drooping of upper eyelid. Compare these two eyelids, there is drooping of this left eyelid. Then also there is enophthalmos. Enophthalmos means pushing this eyeball inside, or inward pushing of this eyeball, and if you compare these two, left side eyeball, it is pushed inside as compared to the right. Other features of this Horner syndrome, that is the anhidrosis. Anhidrosis means there is absence of sweating on the affected side, and also other feature is the presence of ciliospinal reflex. This is due to the damage to this hypothalamus-spinal sympathetic fibers. Then also there is damage to this vestibular nuclei, and due to this damage to this vestibular nuclei, there is vertigo, nystagmus with nausea and vomiting. And this nystagmus, that is the nystagmus means there is the oscillatory movements of this eyeball. And this is about the lateral medullary syndrome. Now other lesions in the medulla, that is the bulbar palsy and pseudobulbar palsy. This bulbar palsy, bulbar means that word it is used, that is lower part of the brainstem, and palsy means weakness. So this bulbar palsy, it is characterized by there is weakness of the muscles supplied by the lower cranial nerves, that is the 7, 9, 10, 11 and 12 cranial nerves, and that leads to weakness of the muscles of face, muscles of palate, muscles of pharynx and larynx. That is the bulbar palsy. And this bulbar palsy, there is the lesion in the nuclei or in the nerve, that is outside the medulla, and this is the lower motor neuron type of lesion. Then second is the pseudobulbar palsy, and this pseudobulbar palsy, it is the upper motor neuron lesion, that is there is defect or damage or injury to the corticonuclear fibers, and due to this damage to these corticonuclear fibers, these muscles supplied by these lower cranial nerves, they get paralyzed. That is the pseudobulbar palsy. So this is about the medulla oblongata. In the next lecture we will see about pons. Thank you. Good day.